Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Moving Spotlight Podcast. My name is John Ruby. I'm here with my main man,
Corbin Coyle. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Corbin, question for you. With the changing times, how do you feel about self-tapes versus being in the room for auditions? It's a big one right now.
I love it. I mean, it's easier to just kind of, like I can put more work in. I can kind of roll over and just like do a self-tape really quickly and feel good about it. I do kind of miss going in and talking to people and kind of getting that immediate feedback. But at the end of the day, it's nicer. You can travel. Like, come on, you can go anywhere and kind of do self-tape stuff. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I want to like upgrade my travel kit. Because it's hard to find like a good light that will last for like the amount of time and like a good speaker for your phone. So it's just kind of upgrading that stuff.
Yeah, I was just coaching someone and like through Zoom, and I was like, okay, turn your, ring light up. She had a ring light. And then I'm like, we're not getting much light. I'm like, let me see it. And she like, it was like a ring light like this big. I was like, well, and she needed to do a full body. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, we need to get you a bigger ring light because like that is like barely, that's a desk ring light, It's
for like meetings.
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you. I agree with you, Corbin. I definitely enjoy the self-tapes. I mean, yes, I think I miss the direction in the room. I miss the interaction. I mean, I think that is definitely for a lot of people, that's one of the socializing. You get to socialize, but also there's something nice about that. But there are a lot of things. I mean, I don't miss driving to the west side from where I live on the east side on a Friday afternoon being like, hey, you got a last minute audition, do you want to go? And you're like, sure. Well, I can get there in decent time, but getting back is going to be, I could drive up to San Francisco instead. So, I hear what you're saying. I think it's an interesting time, but yeah, to be able to travel and self-tape is pretty cool.
Pretty nice.
Is it pretty cool? Yeah, pretty nice. Well, I want to get right to our guest today. She is a lovely, lovely person. She's an actress, producer, and podcast. Amber Wegner. Amber, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Of course.
I'm doing great. Thank you. I just came off a little travel and I'm getting back in the, swing of things, feeling good.
Yes.
All is well.
Did you bring a self-tape kit at all, or what did you when you were traveling?
Always, yes. Yeah. I bring not quite the size that it sounds like your client had, which is more like a makeup thing, which is like people. I think women a lot of times, maybe men too, use it for like their phone. It's like a little tiny ring light, but like you said, you need more space. So I do have one that I travel with. I've got a backdrop that easily unfolds that I travel with so that I can pop it up at any time, because I have had the audition where I wasn't prepared in a hotel room and like I'm using every lamp in the hotel and like the ironing board and like I'm jimmy rigging myself into a corner so that I can get like the most blank wall ever, and I'm in an awkward position. It's just no good.
I remember one time, I put a sheet up like behind for a backdrop, Amber, but like to hold it up, we didn't have tape or anything. So I like took forks from like the kitchen and like kind of jammed them like in like the frame. I was like, that's going to leave a little mark, but I got to keep this thing up. So yeah, you figure out whatever you can, however you can construct
definitely, it. Ingenuity that comes with the job.
Well, Amber, it's so wonderful that you're here, and just for listeners, this is actually our second time doing this. We had a little technical issues, so it's exciting to be diving back in. And we've also done Amber's podcast, which you have to check out.
It was a very popular episode. It was a very popular episode. I have to say, it was one of the most listened to probably in the last 30 days.
Oh, nice!
Wow. Well,
yeah. So
thank you. And your podcast again, just to remind viewers what it's called and stuff.
Yeah, it's called Actors Inspiration with Amber Wegner, and it's an almost daily podcast. I do interviews sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week. And then the rest of the days I just jump in and do like 5 to 10 minutes bursts of inspiration about, auditioning, something that's going on in the world, a book I'm reading, just trying to give inspirational content for those that just need a little push for the day.
I love that you said almost daily, because there was one time where I told my wife, I was like, I'm not eating sweets. And then she like caught me eating sweets. She's like, you're eating sweets. I was like, well, I'm not. Like, I just said I'm not, but like, it's kind of an almost. And she's like, yeah, but you're eating. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to say like the never thing. So the almost or the daily. So I like the almost.
Yeah, I think I did like 165 days in a row, and then like had to travel or something. And then I realized the world doesn't stop if I don't go on, So I've given myself a little bit of freedom to, if I'm not inspired, who am I to jump on and like, give that version of the day?
You're such a hard worker. How do you stay on top of that? Like, because 165 days. You that's impressive. That's a lot. That's really good.
Yeah, I think I recorded episode 265 today. I've been doing it for almost a year. Yeah, almost a year. And I get my inspiration from books, from other podcasts such as yours. From I think I shared when we met last time. I am addicted to Awards Chatter podcast from the Hollywood Reporter. Like, that is my jam. And so I kind of like listen to whatever's being said that day, and what's going on in the industry. And so I get my inspiration from reading, and then I just share what has inspired me, and then ask questions of the listeners, to just thought-provoking questions. Like, how does this apply to you in your life? Does it apply? If not, throw it away. I never claim to have any answers. I just share what I know. I share my knowledge, and if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, toss it out. I'm taking off these bracelets because they're like jangling.
Moving around.
It's like a sound issue.
Yeah, but that idea of like being curious, whether it's through books or podcasts, because I think part of like with what we do, whether it's acting or podcasting, when you're looking for like clues or tips or things like that, some stuff's not going to resonate with you, or some stuff you're like, okay, I've heard this before, but as you go through, you find like the gems you want to hold on to, and you have to look, I think, in different places for that. It's not all like in one, let's say, resource. So you go to different places, and I think that's like a necessity with what we do, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I spoke about that today, just about wonder. You use the word wonder. My husband, if we have a question like on a road trip, he's so quick to ask Google the answer. I'm like, no, wait, hold on. Let's see if we can figure this out. Like, let's use these beautiful imaginations. Let's see if we can figure this out without talking to the Google.
Oh my God.
I love doing that though. I Google it immediately. I gotta know right away.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I torture myself because I usually end up going to Google, but once in a while, like, you're trying to think of who sings a song. I'm like, no, wait.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's fun. You get to like kind of explore the world for a second rather than just
exactly.
I had that very recently, Amber, where my wife was telling me about that it's sexist, the trees they plant in LA because they're all male. And I was like, I need to Google this. So I waited until she was out of the room, and then I looked it up, and it's a very interesting topic. People can look it up themselves. What I found out is it's not really male or female, but there are trees that can have pods and fruit and stuff like that, and trees that can't. Yes. And they generally steer away from that because it's more work and things like that. But it was really interesting. Like, hearing her say that, I was like, that can't be true. But is it? Like, I need to know. I know. So it was really interesting for me to like then go. And Corbin, I wanted to get to my phone right away, but I knew it would piss her off. So I was like, wait.
Funny that you waited.
Yeah, I did. I waited.
Great. That's great.
Amber, I want to go to your journey with acting. Where did that start for you? And what got you excited to do
so
that?
I'm born and raised in Sacramento, California, and had a very probably early elementary school, had a kinship to television, to movies in a way that not necessarily everybody that I knew did. I really found characters fascinating. So I got I went to a visual and performing arts high school. And I ended up doing dance instead of acting or theater, but I always watched. Like, I'd sit behind the curtains and watch what I wanted to really be doing. And then I got my first job in theater in the round. It was Timothy Busfield's theater called B Street Theater in Sacramento. And that was a wonderful education to just be able to watch like some of these great performers put on, wonderful theater in such a small venue. And then I did dinner theater, was my first paying job, was dinner theater. And that was, very silly, but it allowed me the opportunity to get out of myself. And then that was it until I finished school and then started working. I had restaurant and hospitality management jobs. And at 28, or 27, I was like, this isn't what I want to do with my life. Like, I'm climbing this ladder and I'm doing really well. I had made decent money. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. And I was like, what do I want to do? So I took my savings and I moved to Hawaii and I read The Artist's Way. And when I finished the book, I said, I need to go to LA and I need to see what this looks like. And so at 28, I moved from Maui to LA and knew nothing. I was very humbled. I was very, I spent 3 years pounding pavement, getting hardly anywhere, because what I realized is there's people been doing this a lot longer than I have. And so it was time to get educated. So I went back to restaurant and hospitality And then at nights would take acting classes, scene study classes, commercial workshops, and, study for that time. And then after like 7 years, I left, and in 2013, I left that day job, joined the union in 2014, and then it's just been kind of off to the races since then. So it's been a long journey. None of it's been overnight, and it's all been like up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, and the highs are highs and the lows get low, But it's like there's always more opportunity. That's what I share on the podcast, is there's opportunities around every corner. Yeah. And Mondays are my favorite day of the week, because I feel like anything can happen on a Monday. Like you never know what this week is gonna offer you. I just think it's exciting.
Yeah, I love that. Were there any classes or teachers early on, Amber, that really resonated with you?
Yeah, I took a commercial workshop with Mike Pointer, and he was super nice. Yeah, he was a great guy, and he's just been somebody that I've reached out to, over the years, and he's been lovely. I studied with Laura Gardner at Howard Fine, and she was fantastic. I took classes at John Rosenfeld early on, and those were great. And now I'm working with a guy named Adam Marcus. He's part of Skeleton Crew, and he's been a wonderful coach. So I remain in class. That's very important to me, is to always be working on my craft, because as we know, there's times in between working, paying jobs, but I never want to stop acting. I want to always keep my instrument tuned.
Yeah. And what about with your world of producing? How is that kind of blended in with kind of what we were talking about? Where like,
so in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, I met a gentleman named Richie Greer, who was working at the Paramount lot. And I was going in to do a job, and I pulled into the wrong parking lot. He was working security. And I was like, I am so sorry. It's 5:45 a.m. I have a 6 a.m. call time, and I know I'm in the wrong lot, but I need a parking spot. He's like, I got you, no problem. And then he's like, kind of typing in my stuff. He's like, so you're an actor? And I said, yeah. And he's like, asking me questions. I'm like, I'd love to have this conversation with you, but I have to go to work. So I gave him my card, and I said, please call me though. Thank you for helping me. Let's have lunch. Yeah. And he did. He called me, and we had lunch, and he told me that he had, over 20 scripts that were written, and he's been looking for a way to get them produced. And I was like, well, I'm an actor that isn't working as much as I'd like to be. And I think creating my own content is probably going to be my best bet in working steadily. And so he had already started Magic Arrow Films production. So I came on as a co-partner, and we did short films, we did music videos, we did feature films. And it was an opportunity for me to get the production side of things and also build credits on my IMDb. And that was great, because that opened a lot of doors. I met a lot of people, and the experience was invaluable.
Amber, when you do something like that, partnering up is something we talk about on the podcast. What do you, if you kind of reflect back on that, like, what do you feel like kind of, you brought to the table and he brought to the table? Like, how did you guys kind of?
Yeah, so he was the writer director. He had written all these scripts, and he definitely has a vision and is a wonderful director. He's directed 3 feature films in the last 3 years, so he's doing it. And then I came in as the actor producer. So we wore different hats, and not to say he didn't do some producing, he definitely carried that hat as well. But we kind of gave ourselves these jobs, and then went from there. We did all the casting together. We were very much, a really good partnership. He and I worked really, really, really well together. And what had me leave in 2019, I was there for a little over 3 years, was that I found that I was working so much in production and no longer focusing as much on my acting. And I had SAG insurance at the time, and all of a sudden my SAG insurance went away. And for those of you that know the difference in cost from SAG insurance to regular health insurance, it's crazy, right? So I had to make a choice, and it was a really painful choice, because we were just about to go into pre-production, or we were in pre-production on a film called Weekend Warriors. And I said, I have to back out. I said, I have to continue focusing on my acting and getting my health insurance back. And if I do this, it's going to take me away. And he's like, okay, well, do you still want to be in the movie? I said, yeah, I do, because I already have a role in it. And he's just a wonderful human being. So Richie Greer I give him a big shout out. He's a good human.
Amazing. And what about with like funding and all that? Do you have any recommendations for newbie actors who are trying to get their own work?
Well, here's the interesting tip. So the first film we did, Underdog, was funded. We funded half of it. Richie and his wife funded the other half. So it came out of pocket. It was a very expensive learning experience. Very expensive. We probably will not make our money back on that, but we learned a lot, and so there's that. In the second two films, there were actors that were of, a younger age that their parents were wanting to have their kids, take a bigger role in a film that were able to help with financing. So if you're able to cast somebody in the film that might have access to financing to help get the ball rolling, that's one way to do it. And again, it's that whole thing of attaching an actor to the name to get financing, or get financing, then you can attach the actor to the film. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So if you have access to name actors that you can say, hey, can I get an LOI from you, which is a letter of intent, so that I can at least get some funding for the film. A lot of times your actor friends will do that just so that they can get the ball rolling. So that's a way to, start the financing as well.
That's really clever. I like that.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing our film and trying to get some sort of like a name actor, Amber, and then we were getting names of people that were like kind of not what you consider names. I'm sure excellent actors, but like, and they were still way above our budget. So we're like, okay, so the people whose names we don't recognize, we still can't afford.
Yeah,
and I think it's a challenging thing. It's a challenging part.
Well, we had at one point, Eric Roberts signed to our film, and then we take it to distribution. They're like, he does everything. He's not a commodity. He works all the time. He says yes to everything. That's not a great name. But I thought, but he's in every poster I see here. So something about, anyways, we didn't end up working with him. But I was like, well, what do you mean? Just like Danny Trejo, I know Trejo. And it's like, yeah, but he does everything. I'm like, but they sell. I don't understand this.
It's a very, that whole world and even distribution, all that stuff is a very kind of like hazy, hard to go through. Yeah, it's a challenging, interesting world. I just want to go back. I know we're talking about the producing, but when you were talking about acting and acting every day, we're getting kind of near the end of May here. How did May self-tape May go? I know you were doing that. Yeah,
super fun. So I had set a goal to do, what did I say that I wanted to do? 16 tapes in 4 days. That was my goal. I did not meet that goal, but I had the goal. I did 16 tapes in 10 days and got those out and up. And then I was able to just like dust my hands of it and then like go on to my next thing. Whereas in the past, it's kind of taken me all month to get my 16 tapes in.
Interesting. Yeah.
So what I treated this like this time was pilot season. I thought even though we're not in pilot season, we're at the tail end of it. I wanted to look at it like, let me do multiple different scenes in a day, because that's what I'm going to have to do during pilot season. So I was just trying to do something different, because this is my 4th year completing Self-Tape May. And I think there's 20 actors total that have completed all 3 years. And now I've completed 4. So I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations. Yeah. And for people that don't know, it's something, Audrey Moore started with, she does another podcast, Audrey Helps Actors, which is a great podcast. And I love it that she's doing that. And I think it's such a great thing, because with what you're talking about, that idea of maybe you've got, let's say, auditions for things, but maybe you don't. And that thing of, well, 3 months have gone by and I haven't done any acting. I call myself an actor and I haven't done any acting. It's like, well, this is a great reason to do acting, whether it's in a class or something like you're challenging yourself and setting a goal. I mean, that's an interesting thing. I'm curious, Amber, because you do a lot of things. And I think Corbin was kind of touching on this as far as like scheduling or goal setting. How do you approach kind of the mindset part of things?
Well, this is my plan B, right? Like there is no other option. This is what I have chosen to do. This is what I have put all of my eggs in a basket for. And so if that's what I am going to do, then I am the only one that can get this done. And I am the only one that can stop me. I am the only one, so we've talked, last time we met, I talked about how much I love how Audrey Moore speaks about training like an Olympian. And when I heard those words, it rung true. And she said, Olympians train 8 hours a day if they're a sprinter, then they are sprinting and conditioning for that. Am I doing 8 hours a day? At the time I wasn't. Today, probably do more like 3.5 hours a day, like consistently. Some days I do more and some days I do an hour. I do not miss a day of doing something. Like right now I'm working on for class, and we're doing a performance of Chicago. And so it's like, I'm rehearsing all day long, ready, because I don't do musicals. I'm a dancer, but I don't sing. So I'm getting my voice ready. And so I'm always challenging myself in doing things that I'm not used to doing, that I'm not comfortable doing. Sometimes when I want to say no, I go, what's behind that no? And is there something I can learn from this? You know, and I'm always willing to make an ass of myself. Like I have no problem like doing something and failing. I have a problem being given an opportunity and not trying.
I would say you're only failing when you don't do it. Like there's no other way to do it.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you can laugh at me all you want. I don't care. As long as I can get this done. Like I might not do it well, but I will have tried. I will have made an attempt.
Like that.
I think there is a place to grow and learn and challenge ourselves, you know, and I think that's important to do. And I think at any phase of a career, and I think, you know, it always reminds me of when, you know, like Jim Carrey started doing drama and people are like, he should just do comedy. He just wants to do comedy. It's like, well, no, what about for him? He wants to do some, you know, like he doesn't want to do the faces all the time. I mean, he's great at that, you know, but he wants to challenge himself. And I think that's, you know, we sometimes forget that, but we have to do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking like this play I just wrapped up, I've got like a TED talk in it, Amber, and like monologues to the audience are like my least favorite things in the world. I do not like them. I'm not a fan. Like I got to look at people's faces in the audience. They're like sitting there. Sometimes they're get uncomfortable or not, or, you know, I just is like, so, but going through this run with doing that over and over again forced me to grow and to become, you know, I think a better actor, but it's like, that was part of what I wanted to put myself through with doing like, you know, doing this piece, you know?
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah. Getting uncomfortable, you know, but not being afraid to get uncomfortable or like you said, to fail. Like, you know, good for you. That's awesome.
Amber, cause you've got experience, acting and creating a podcast and things like that. If someone had just moved out here, what advice would you give them?
They're already here or they're moving out here?
Well, that's a good question. Let's say they haven't. Let's say they're about to. What would you say to someone who's like, they're from Wisconsin, where I'm from, and they're like, they're thinking about coming out to LA. What would you say to them?
I would say have a decent amount of money saved up so that you don't feel like you show up with your pants around your ankles, you know, it's like, and struggling to make it work, because that's what I did. I showed up with $78 to my name and I'm like, oh, I'll get a restaurant job. I'll do a survival job. I'll work this, I'll do that. And rent in Los Angeles is crazy. Yeah. And so I was always just trying to eat and pay my rent. And it was like, that was exhausting. So then I'd actually get an audition and I'd be like, because I had nothing left, you know? So it was like when I left, went back to a day job, saved some money, and then was able to actually flourish as an actor because I was not doing the struggle. That was so helpful. So I'd say, you know, have some concept or have some idea of how you're going to support yourself so that you can be an artist, so that you can create. Doesn't mean you're not going to have a day job. You know, that's fine. I respect that. And I think, you know, pay the bills. Yeah. But have some money set aside.
Corbin, can I say the struggle is real, or will I get in trouble for saying that? The struggle is real. I think that's good. Real. Okay, but you're right. You're right, Amber. I think that's really good advice for somebody coming out here, because you got to be able to pay your bills. You got to be able to keep your head above water. You know, that's you know, that part. So it's harder to be, you know, what is it? It's like it's hard to be in love when you've got like a headache or something like that. You know what I mean? So, but it's a similar thing where when you're stressed and worried, and all your energy is going towards that, it's hard to, you know, be open to
your best to the audition, or bring your best to a meeting, or, you know, try to get an agent, you know. So just take care of yourself financially, emotionally, mentally.
Yeah. Corbin, what would you say if someone just got out here?
Like, I think that's all great advice. You kind of want to be ready, because it takes a bit to kind of hit the ground running. But I would start trying to find your community. I would start to do things that you like to do. So like, you know, whatever it is, like it can be anything to just start to meet people. Because that's kind of, one, you're going to go crazy if you don't have friends. And then two, that's all every industry is just kind of like who you know and creating that little network. So I recommend just start hitting the ground running with people.
Yeah. I think it's great to do that. And I think it's also okay to be selective with the people you're going to spend the time with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny when you said that, Corbin, I just flashed when I first got out here. I remember I went to the Beverly Hills Hotel when I first got out here. I thought I was being so fancy. And then there's like, I can't even remember. There's like a breakfast restaurant or bar, like in the basement of it. Do you know? I don't know if Amber, if you know, but like, there's, so I went there and I met the guy sitting next to me. We were chatting and I was like, oh, this is a nice guy. He was like, this was when I first moved out here and he seemed like a cool guy. And I think he was like a director and then he like invited me over just to hang out and I was at his place and like in his kitchen was like lots of garbage bags. Like the garbage had not been taken out. And I was like, I don't know if this guy and I are on the same page with like how the cleanliness with like lifestyle, you know? And so it's like, you have to be selective, I think. And you find those people that you match with or you don't, but you kind of got to put it out there in a sense and start to meet people, you know, and whether that's in a class, whether that's in a community, whether that's doing shows, I think that's where you start to find them. Right.
Your tribe, right? Building your tribe. Like you said, be selective. But then when you find those people that are like-minded and that are going to encourage and inspire you, like you hang on to those people that are like-minded, not trash hoarders.
Trash. Avoid the trash hoarders. That's so funny. I still remember that, Amber, from a long time ago. Amber, with getting things done, do you have like a morning routine or anything like a day, like a daily thing? You said you love Mondays. Like, you know, when you get your day started, is it, have you put everything on your like, you know, iPhone calendar or how do you kind of like, you know, how do you approach getting everything done?
Yeah, it's so funny. I do not use an iPhone calendar. I am a pen and paper old fashioned. I have a day planner. I use a highlighter and I have my like, hold on, it's right here because this is a day in the life. Here we go. Ready? Because it's colorful and there's lots going on.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. For those that can't see, there's a lot of different highlighted colors. Oh yeah.
And each day that is passed gets hearted because I'm always happy to have a good day. But yeah, so my days are full. And how I start my days are usually getting the podcast done. One of the, first thing I do is I don't pick up my phone. I go downstairs, I feed my animals, I grab a cup of tea and I grab whatever book I'm reading and I curl up in front of some window in my house and I read for like 15, 20 minutes just to kind of like wake up my brain. And then whatever starts inspiring thought, I start thinking about the podcast. And then I'll check my phone, my email, all that good stuff. And then I will go directly to the podcast and usually get that knocked out in the morning. Unless I have an interview, I usually do those around 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. So by then I will have gone to Pilates and done some vocal exercises and whatnot. So, and then it just depends on what the day looks like. But the morning routine is usually prepping for the podcast.
Mm-hmm. That's it's nice to have that kind of routine to be able to kind of exactly like read a book in the morning, something that was so easily forgotten as you go throughout the day. It's like good to kind of get that not over with in the beginning of the day, but it's like hard. It's hard to kind of keep that routine going unless you do it.
Well, and I used to have like the first thing I would do is pick up my phone and I found I am allowing others' information to dictate my day, like whether it's good news or bad news or just news in general. But if I start looking at my emails and my texts, and I get, it's just like that is going to shift my entire day based on something else. I want to start my day in my space with my thoughts, with whatever I want to ingest, and then go, okay, I've done me. Let's see the world. And I just prefer that.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too, Amber. And I think it can be, it seems like it shouldn't be, but it can be very challenging to do that. But I think there is something nice about, keeping your phone on silent, setting it to the side, keeping it off or whatever it is, not going to it right away. And like you said, it helps give you the time and the space you need to kind of be ready before, the world starts kind of invading the space, which it will,
Yes,
I mean, I think
absolutely. It's a thing.
When you get like an audition, Amber, how do you approach it? This is something we haven't really discussed. Is like, do you start to like memorize the lines? Do you start to break it down? Do you read it with a friend or with a family member? Like, how do you attack it?
First thing I do is say, thank you. Like, I get so excited. I really do. I see an email and I'm woohoo! Like, I get excited and I let myself feel excited because I know how many people have submitted for that job and that somebody has asked me bring something to the table. So the first thing I do before I open it is just say, thank you. Okay, this is fun.
I love that, Amber, because if I get like an audition notice email, I'm like, okay, what is it? I'm like very focused. Okay, what is this? Okay, right. Okay, how many pages? Okay, what is it for? Do I know anybody?
No, I go there.
I love it.
Like, I get there. Trust me.
No, but I love the thank you. I love that. I love the thank
it's like,
you.
thank you, more please. Yes, please, more of this. Yes, please, more of this.
I'm grabbing
so first
that.
I say thank you, I get really excited as if I booked it. Like as if I just read it, I booked it. I get that excited. And then I look at it and do the technical stuff. Then I'm like, okay, who's the casting director? Have I worked with them before? Who's the producer? What's the network? What's the tone of the show? Is it a pilot? Is it been on the air? And then sometimes what I'll do is before I even look at the like the audition, if it's something that I can watch, I'll just watch like 10, 15 minutes of the show so that I can just kind of get a gauge of where we're at. And then I look at the character. And I briefly look at the character breakdown. As I have done this longer, I don't get as picky about the character description because what I've learned is I need to bring me to this character. And so if it says they've got a stutter, obviously, then I need to do the stutter because that's what it's saying this character has. What version of the stutter? Don't know. But if it's like, I don't know, some things that just might not apply to the way that I'm going to bring the character to life. And so what I'm going to do is give you my best version of this. Yeah. And then when I usually, if it's just a page, then I'll do 2 takes. But if it's more than a page, then I just do the 1 take. But when I do 2 takes, I do completely different takes, completely different look, completely different vibe. I'm like, I'm going to show you that I can do something completely different. Yep. And I have had great response with that, great feedback with that.
I like that you throw the description away because I just recently heard I'm like this character when, and that to me like opens it up in a way, kind of what you're talking about. It informs you like I'm like this character when they're angry or like a murderer or whatever, but it's not who you can kind of get pigeonholed a little bit if you kind of go too far in that one direction. Yeah,
well, and I heard an interesting, I attend a lot of casting director workshops, and I heard one of the casting directors say that they had a breakdown for, it was a mother that was dealing with alcoholism, and she was like at the end of her ropes. And every single person, but maybe 1 or 2, brought in this like drunk version of the character. And an alcoholic mother that's at the end of her rope can look like your neighbor, can be put together, but dying inside. And so like only a couple people actually got that. And one of those 2 got the role because they didn't need her to look haggard or like drunk or hungover. That was just information you needed to know. That was just some backstory, but she's still showing up into the world. She's just had it. She's just a person. Yeah. So I thought that was, when I heard that, I was like, yes. Okay. So how do I just bring my version of this to the table?
Yeah, I was just, when you said that, Amber, also, I think that's a great point. And then also you're talking about kind of the 2 different looks of the 2 different takes. And we just had this come up in class yesterday where someone did a scene and it was a really nice take on it. And then I gave them something that was like to try a different take on it. And they started the scene with the exact same behavior. And I said, well, if this is a different channel, let's start with different behavior. Instead of let's having you leaning against the wall, let's have you pacing or something. And then we immediately know we're dealing with a different mindset, a different character, in the same world. It's not like a feeling like a different world, but it's a different, and that cues people off. And I think that's a really, when you're doing that, ways, whether it's a different outfit or whatever, but ways to like right away show this is a different, it's not going to be like the final thing at the end is going to be, the laugh is going to be different. It's like, no, right from the top, you're going to get a different take here, because we're doing self-tapes and we don't know exactly what you want. We're trying a couple things here.
Yeah. And those first 10 seconds are so important. Like, how do you feel about what's happening before you even say your first word? Yeah. And sometimes it's like that look, if you've got disdain for somebody and you are just like, you motherfucker, and then you say your line, it's like, those are the moments I feel like capture. Because a lot of times people go right into that first line and they've missed that beautiful beat before. And it can take a minute.
I just finished the final season of Ozark, and like Jason Bateman is so good with like not saying anything. It's like I'm just like, because I'm like, oh God, it's so good. And of course Laura Linney's amazing too, but she gets to play a bigger, more emotional character for people who've seen the show. But like he does so much just with like, he like looks down, and you see him thinking. You can see him thinking the whole time, and it's so interesting. Yes. And it's similar to what you're talking about, where it's like those, even his moments of silence, you get what's going on. And I think that's so informative and so lovely when you can bring that to a role, you know?
Yeah, what am I
Not easy.
really saying? Like, here's my words, but what am I really saying? You know, I love you, Corbin. Okay, what am I really saying?
Right.
I
Yeah.
love you, Corbin.
Yeah.
You know,
What's
it's like,
behind it? Yeah.
what's behind what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is he trying too hard with the guitars? Is that what you're saying? You know, the guitar's on his wall, or do you really like?
Yeah. I am curious though, because we've been talking a lot about like, you know, self tapes and kind of that world. But I just shot a short last week, so being on set, I'm kind of curious. How do you approach being a leader on set, as well as kind of finding those moments to be a little different or coming from those different energy places? Like, what is your approach when you're actually there?
Yeah, you know, it changes based on the role that I am encompassing. Like, if I am not, like, I recently played a woman that had multiple personality disorder, and I really needed to kind of stay in my own space to just be able to access what I needed to access for her. And a lot of times if I'm playing just like the jovial mom, then I usually take on the role of like being mom to everybody, you know, and like making sure that I'm keeping the energy up, and like, especially if there's kids, you know, and just trying to like be a light. You know, I always try to be a light in whatever room that I enter. And so it just depends, you know, it depends on the role as far as what I'm able to bring. But I usually walk into every opportunity asking how I can be of service to it. How can I be of service to my character? How can I be of service to the director, to the lighting, to the cameraman? Like, and that is being prepared, you know, and that is showing up on time, and that is being helpful, you know, when needed. Yes, I'm here to act, but especially on smaller budget productions, dude, all hands on deck is so helpful.
Yes.
You know, so it's, I am just one small conduit of a very big job. And I know that. So I think having the production background allows me to be more accessible to everybody, because if craft services, I see them going back and forth their truck and I'm going the same way, here, let me grab a box, you know, let me be helpful to whatever's happening, because it's a team. It's really a team effort.
I always try to, like, when they're setting up the shot or something, I try to get out of the way, but I'm like I have an ear listening to see if they ever need, like, you know, me standing in my spot, me figuring out the things. So like I'm kind of running lines, or I'm like, you know, even maybe just relaxing for a second on my phone, but I'm here, I'm listening, I'm ready for them whenever they need me. Yeah, exactly. If there's a box, if there's something, just you can always.
And then
find
you
something.
mentioned, you know, the phone thing, and I tend to I do my best to just leave my phone behind, but I usually like to have a book, because I find a book is a way that I can be doing something but keep my ears open and I don't get lost in whatever's happening in the phone. And it's always a great conversation starter. Like, somebody on set will be like, oh, what are you reading? Or like, you know, there's just a curiosity about books. So that's a fun thing.
That's great.
Do.
Yeah, phone is a wall. Like, I'm doing my thing. Book is
you could be
more
doing
like
something very important. You could be doing your taxes or something. You know?
I mean, I'm on Reddit, but you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Phone is a wall, book is a bridge, folks.
Ooh,
Write that down, Corbin. Write that down. I like it. I found it. You started it, Corbin. I just finished it.
We need to make a song for that.
We need to make a song. What I was also thinking about, Corbin, with your question, and I love everything you both said. I loved, because I think it's also true. And you, as you get on more sets, you start to get more comfortable and you start to understand. But I think there's also a place for times to be a leader, and times to kind of, not that you have to be a follower, but times not to be a leader. Yeah. And I've just been on sets where it's like you get a lot of cooks in the kitchen and everyone's giving their opinion. And sometimes they do need that. Sometimes, you know, maybe the director is stuck and would welcome it. And then sometimes it all becomes overwhelming and it's too much, and then everybody's doing it. And I think that's a really challenging thing too, where, I mean, if you're coming on as an actor, you know, you want to come on as an actor. And if the environment is collaborative, wonderful. And if it's not, you kind of got to accept that too. Like there's a bit of the set itself has its own, you know, creative energy, and knowing kind of where you fit into that. I think, you know, not that you can't bring positive energy, not that you can't still be a leader, but I think it is interesting with each set you go to. I feel like it changes.
Read the room. Like, read the room.
Yeah.
Read the room. Yeah. I mean, we, Amber, we just had Dewan on the podcast, and like his role on Bosch started off as a co-star.
Yep.
And then he was on it for like 7 seasons, you know? And so I think there's something about being able to, you know, be on set, be ready, be prepared, and, you know, who knows what it could,
I just read Retta's book. This is a fabulous book for anybody looking for a new read. Retta from Parks and Rec, and then Good Girls.
Oh yeah.
She started off in her role for the first like 7 episodes. She was practically an extra, but she was like, it was a great opportunity to be on set. She was learning from some of the best. And because she showed up, she was fun. She had ideas when they were asked that, eventually she became a series regular and she had her own parking spot. She was like, things changed. And so, yeah, it's amazing. I love hearing those stories. And that's also where the inspiration for Actors Inspiration came about, is I feel like I am, one actor at a certain point in my journey. I've come a long way, but I know how far I want to go. And for anybody that just kind of wants to watch the train move, and see where it goes, a day in the life, like that's also kind of where it's at, to kind of peek behind and see the other side of an actor's journey.
Yeah. Amber, what's kind of the dream role or job or person you want to work with? Like if you're vision boarding it, what's up there? Is it Idris Elba? Is it Idris Elba? It's always Idris Elba. No.
Oprah.
Oprah. Oh, that'd be fun.
Okay,
Is it you want to be on Oprah or you want to be Oprah?
I want to work with Oprah in any capacity, like in any capacity. And here's a funny story. In, I think, 2016, I got a role in Wrinkle in Time, and I played one of the Camazotz women. And then they had me be a stand-in for Bellamy Young, who was very lovely from Scandal. And when I booked that job on Wrinkle in Time, I was like, I am going to finally work with Oprah. And I was so excited. And so Oprah, I found out, was shooting in like Australia or New Zealand. And we were shooting in PV. Like we were in 2 different ends, and not even PV, no, San Pedro. We were shooting at a military base in San Pedro. And she was in, New Zealand. But the greatest thing that came about that, in my joy of working with Oprah, is I got to be directed by Ava DuVernay. Ooh. And let me tell you, that was unbelievable. I'm standing there, working my job, like I was working as a stand-in at the time. And all of a sudden, this head peeks from behind the camera. She goes, "Hi, baby, how are you?" And I was like, "Great, how are you?" She's like, "This is what I need you to do." And like, she had me step back. She showed me how she wanted to do the walk. And she was like, "Okay, great." Now I was working as the stand-in, but she was filming. And that, that piece that we did made the cut of the film. And doing that film got me my first, in fact, I'm looking at it, my first page in People magazine. And so it was just like all these things came out of this wonderful opportunity to see Oprah, which I never saw, but I had a wonderful opportunity.
I love that. And I was not, I love that you said Oprah. I was not expecting that, but I love that. And I love hearing that story, is what comes from sometimes the stuff that happens that's wonderful that we don't expect. Yeah. Right. So it's like, sometimes that's the stuff that we want to appreciate and enjoy. And along the journey, I think about that a lot, where, when I get this car and I get this thing, I'll be happy. And it's like, well, no, along the way, things are going to happen that hopefully you can appreciate and have gratitude for, like you're just saying there, Amber. Yeah. How do you balance your positivity, which you've got a lot of, and energy when it's not going as well? I'm just curious, because I know, we all have ups and downs.
We sure do. And, it's funny. Again, when we talked about having a tribe, I've got, 2 or 3 really close girlfriends that are also actors, that we all at some point are hitting it and not hitting it. So we're kind of like a dance. And they are the ones I go to when I'm really in it, because what I found with my husband, who is an electrical contractor, he does not necessarily love this business. He loves that I love it, but it's just not his jam. He likes to know where the next paycheck is coming. He wants to know how much it is. It's just like, he has a different mindset. So to answer your question, is I found I don't go to him when I'm going through it, because he's like, well, you could always get a different job. I'm like, no, wrong answer, wrong answer. I go to my tribe and I'm like, I'm really feeling frustrated. It's been, 2 weeks or however long. And I haven't booked a job. They get it, they get it. So I go to the people that speak my language. Yep. And I go to my husband for other things, yes. but because it's just like, that answer is not helpful. But my tribe, my tribe gets it.
I was thinking about one thing with that is I enjoy banter, Amber, as you can tell. I enjoy bantering with Corbin. I enjoy that. My wife, Annie, is not a huge fan of banter, and I had to find other places to do banter. You know what I mean? And so I think that, sometimes we look to our spouse or our significant other, and like, we can look to them for a lot of things, but maybe not everything.
Yeah.
And I think with what you're saying too, with your tribe, what I also came in my brain that's more relevant, less personal, is try to find people that are more passionate than you about it. That's a really interesting thing to find, right? And so I'm just thinking of this play where, like, I mean, I've got a lot of life happening, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to get to the theater first, and the other actors are always there before me. I'm like, God darn it, don't you guys have lives, But like, I love that they're there and they're hungry, and then it's like, okay, well then and I think finding those people that are as passionate or more passionate for you towards acting, towards writing, towards directing, towards whatever that is, to try to find those people in that tribe, because that's an interesting thing where they're like, well, I've read these 10 books and you're like, I've read 3, like I need, but it can drive you when you see how excited and into it they are.
Couldn't agree more. And that's why I love so much the Awards Chatter podcast that I speak about all the time on my podcast, because I'm hearing, it's award season, when he's talking to people, I'm listening to people that have made it, that have and made it is such a broad term, but they're doing things that I want to be doing. They're working with people I want to be working with. They're going places I want to go. They're living a life, it's like, and again, having a wonderful home is such a nice base, because then everything else is just gravy, and I'm not looking to the career to make me happy. My life is happy, and that's just going to be like a bonus in it.
Yep.
And I love hearing the stories of the films that are being made all around the world with amazing people and all the things that they have gone through. And it makes me feel less alone, in this journey, because they all started somewhere. And so I love to hear in each episode you go from start to finish, and I can't get enough.
Yeah, when you hear the stories about the steps people have gone through, I think it is really, Amber, I just met with someone for lunch who went to my high school in Wisconsin and moved out here around the same age I did a long, long time ago. And it was so interesting to talk to him and his buddy, and just like what's ahead for them, that like some of it I've been through, and it was so hard to like encapsulate into a coffee. But it's also some of the similar things he's doing, where you first move out and you're doing you're signing up for things, you're trying all these things, and it's so many people have gone through that same process, those same steps. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Insert struggle is real right there.
Insert struggle is real.
How do you?
Corbin,
I was gonna say, Amber, how do you recharge your batteries? So how do you like get your creative flow back when you are in these kind of weird places?
I am a napper.
Yeah, napper.
Oh my goodness.
Love it.
So I am an early riser. I usually get up between like 5 and 6, and I knock out a lot of stuff by like 11 a.m. And then at around 11 or 12, I will take like a 30-minute cat nap. And literally that's my reset button. And then I'm like, okay, what's next? And then I do this other like 3-hour push. And then my husband usually gets home around 3-4 o'clock from work. And then I'll usually take like a 30-minute siesta with him. And then I can do my evening. Rest is so important for me.
That's great.
So important for me.
I love that.
I think that's so good. I think it is. They keep talking more and more about how important sleep is. So I think that's a great point, Amber.
Yeah, I go to bed at a decent hour. I'm up early. I just try to be like, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. It's all what we choose to do with it. And so I do try to do my, maximize my days.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Corbin, I think it's about time for our favorite segment.
I know what time it is.
Go ahead, Amber. You can say what? Your best bad acting. All right, Corbin. Do you have the?
I do have the quote.
There?
We changed it up on you a little bit.
Amber, we changed it up from we originally when we first recorded this. We only gave her like 2 words. It was way too short, so it was a famous one, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was Yo Adrian. So we changed it up because we wanted to give you something with a little more. You've got acting chops. So this is from. Do you know what this is from?
It's familiar, but I'm not grabbing it.
This is from A Fish Called Wanda. And so this is something. Yeah, this is kind of a fun one. So this gives you a little more to play with. So, whenever you're ready.
I have to do bad acting on this, right?
Yes. Well, do whatever you feel like.
Come from the heart, wherever it feels good.
Yeah, from the heart.
Okay, let's see. What can we do with this? Okay, here we go. All right. You call stupid to insult stupid people. I've worn dresses with higher IQs.
Love it.
I love it. I like the Valley. I like that.
Valley's
Corbin,
fun. I want to see it
I got a good
right after you get the C-mail and you go, thank you. I want to hear that. I want to hear the giddy little, like, so excited.
Yes.
All right. Call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people. I have worn dresses with higher IQs.
Fun.
That was great. Okay, now, Amber, this is a drama. Ava DuVernay is behind the camera. And yeah, exactly. And you're bringing it home for Ava. She's like, Amber, this is the final shot. I need this line.
Right. To call you stupid, be an insult to stupid people. I've worn dresses with higher IQs.
Ooh. Stab right in the heart. Ow.
Shooting arrows.
Yeah.
Just shooting
Right
arrows.
through.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God, that was great. That was so great. Amber, that was lovely. So fun. I don't have anything else on my list. We hit a ton of things.
God, this was amazing.
Yay. So fun hanging out with you guys. Now I feel like this is like the norm. Now I'm gonna really have issues in about a week. I'm gonna be like, but where are my boys?
Let us accidentally delete our thing on your podcast, and then we'll have to re-record it, and we'll just keep going through this cycle. No,
Exactly.
Amber, it has been lovely, lovely, lovely. And it's actually a nice excuse for us all to hang out and get to know each other. And that's part of what's been lovely about doing this, is meeting people like you that we, Corbin and I, did not know before this. And now we feel like we know you really well. And at some point we'll have to meet in person and grab coffee or something. But thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it. And
absolutely.
You know,
quick question for you. How did
Yes.
you find my podcast? Like, how did you find me?
yeah. You were referred to us by somebody else, right, Corbin?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it was Brian, I want to say.
Maybe Brian Pataka.
Yeah.
Would that be who it was?
Mhm.
Or someone.
Curious.
No, you know what it was? No, you know what it was? We had a guest on and she had been on your podcast. And when I was doing my research, I saw your podcast. And I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. So I listened a little bit. And so then, and I'll have to look up what her name was, but I saw that. And so I said, oh, this is Amber looks great. And so we reached out. So
I
was
love
really
it. That's
excited.
so fun. I would love to
Yeah.
hear how people found me. So thank you for sharing.
Of course. Well, Amber, it is a Monday, your favorite day of the week. So wishing you a happy, great Monday. And thank you so much. And until the next time, thanks for joining us on the Moving Spotlight podcast.
Thank you so much.
Great seeing you.
Of course.
You too.
Bye. Thank you to everyone who listened to another fun episode of the Moving Spotlight podcast.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, and we know you will, right, Corbin?
Oh, for sure.
Please check out Amber's podcast, Actors Inspiration with Amber Wegner. She is awesome, as you just heard. She's great. Don't we love her?
She's the best. She's so fun, so much energy, and she brings that every single time. It's the best.
Yep. I'm going to it right now. I'm going to download just our episode and some others and enjoy them. So thanks again for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the
Moving Spotlight Podcast.